Hi everyone, my name is Nia and today I'll be painting something fun and refreshing. I'm going to paint citrus slices. The technicalities are very simple and repetitive, so it's really easy to replicate and you can have lots of fun with the colors on this one. So let's just start by drawing out the citrus slice. It's super easy. I just start by drawing a circle and another circle either inside or outside of the first one that you drew to represent the rind. And I'm going to use the circle on the inside to indicate the center, so I can divide the slice into sections. You can do straight horizontal lines all across, but I tend to divide them separately because I like the slight unevenness of the sections that way. Then I just double up the lines on the sections, then round the corners on all of the sides and the center, then erase the unwanted lines. And that's just then repeated in different sizes so you can create different citrus fruits. You can try to repeat this however many times you want as practice, or draw straight on your paper or sketchbook and create the composition that you want and figure out the types of citrus fruits you would like to include. The first one that I'm going to paint is a Calamansi slice, and the colors that I'm going to use are yellow, vermilion, deep green, and yellow ochre. I'm going to be using my Pentel colors for the whole painting because I want to use very bright colors to give a refreshing and happy feel to the painting. So for this one, I'm going to use yellow as my main color and add a bit of vermilion to create a deeper yellow. You can also mix orange instead of vermilion, but vermilion is the closest here, so I'm just going to use that. And I'm basically going to have two separate colors where I have the lighter yellow and something that is a bit more orangey. And I'm going to take a bit of the orange mix to incorporate it into each of the sections, but yellow is still my main color, and I'm just going to alternate the colors slightly and give it a bit more richness. The way I'm painting this is that the small lines or the brush strokes that I'm creating are all following the same direction towards the center, and meanwhile I'm also leaving out some white negative space so they can become highlights to give more of a juicy texture to the slice. So for those of you who's never heard of calamansis, it's abundant all across Southeast Asia. In fact, I have a calamansi tree in the backyard and they have such bright deep yellow and juicy interior with a deep green skin, and it's very sour and refreshing to put in your drinks or as condiments. You might have different fruits that is special in your country, and it would be really fun to incorporate that in your painting as well. So once I've painted all of the sections and the paint settles and dries, I'm just adding additional layer to increase the vibrancy of the colors. Then I'm going to paint the skin, which I'm going to use a mixture of deep green and yellow ochre. Then I'm also going to take a little bit of yellow to brighten the green slightly. To paint the skin is very simple. I'm first just going to outline the outside circle so there's a bit of space for the white rind in between the flesh and the skin. And I also like to alternate the colors with the bright yellow green as well as a deeper green where there's a higher ratio of deep green in the color mixture. Once I've placed the deeper green, I use a clean damp brush to further smooth out the color so it blends nicely. The next step is very subtle. I use the lighter green to paint very small dots on the inside of the skin and also a little bit on the white of the rind to give it a bit of texture, and it also makes the slice look less flat, and I do this all around the circle. As one of the final steps, I like to use a clean damp brush to gently reactivate some of the colors which are already dry to slightly color the white rind, and so it doesn't look too glaringly white in comparison to the rest of the slice. But be very gentle while doing this and make sure that the colors are completely dry so you won't disturb it too much. Try a small section first to make sure that it's fine before doing this to the whole thing so you don't accidentally end up smudging the whole slice. This is just a very quick step. Then to finish the slice off, I use the yellows again to define some of the sections slightly. Next, I'm going to paint grapefruits, and the colors I'm going to use are red, which is more similar to quin red, vermilion, Naples yellow, yellow, and deep green. I'm going to start by creating a pink color by mixing vermilion and Naples yellow and the red to adjust the tone of the pink. And because I want this one to be very light pink color, I'm going to add a lot of water to lighten the pink. For this, as an additional dark color, I just either use a thicker consistency or adjust the ratio between the vermilion and red with less Naples yellow. Then I'm going to paint it the same way as I did before by directing the brush strokes to the center while leaving some white space, but this time on a larger slice. When I was making this, what I had in mind wasn't exactly grapefruit, but where I live we have something similar to grapefruit, and I think internationally it's called pomelo, and we usually have the pink version here. And the pink color is very light and the skin is very light yellow with a touch of green tint. So that's basically what I'm trying to create for this slice. Even though now thinking about it though, I think the rind is supposed to be much thicker than this, but I just really like the color combination. Next I'm going to paint the skin, and for this I'm mixing in yellow with a bit of the previous light green mixture, which has a bit of the yellow ochre and yellow to create a very light yellow with the tiniest muted green tint. But if you would like to make it a bright yellow, you can also do that depending on what you feel like painting. Then I'm just applying this all around the outer circle. And of course, all of you know that I always like to combine different hues, so I took some of the pink mixture and add some to the yellow mix to create a bit of an orangey tone and apply it to some parts of the skin, then blending the colors. And then after that, I'm just going to create those tiny dots like before and reactivate some of the paint to add a light tint to the rind, just like the previous slice. Then if any of the sections are a bit too smudged, I just go over it again after the paint is mostly dry to refine some of those sections. If you want more definition, you have to wait for the paper to completely dry first so you get much more clean and crisp lines, but I prefer it to be a little bit blurred in some areas, which is why I'm painting on the additional layer while the paper is still a tiny bit damp or cold to the touch. As for the next one, I'm actually going to paint grapefruit, but I'm just going to use the exact same colors as before, but this time I'm making the interior a bit more of a darker pink. So just as a reminder, the colors that I used for the flesh is a mix of Naples yellow, vermilion with some quin red to adjust the tone. But for this one, I used less Naples yellow, so there's less white pigment in the mix to make it a bit darker in tone. And that's also how I'm going to adjust the darker tones that I alternate a bit later on. And for the skin of the grapefruit, I used the similar color to the flesh, but I just add a bit of yellow to make the color a bit more of an orangey tone rather than pink or coral. Then I finish off using the exact same steps with the dots, smudging to get the light tint, then going over some of the sections again. For the next fruit, we're going to paint lemons. Of course, this is probably the simplest one. I'm going to use the obvious color, which is lemon yellow, yellow and vermilion, or you can also swap vermilion for orange. For the flesh, I use mostly lemon yellow for that very bright yellow color, but I also added a little bit of yellow for the alternative dark tone. And I'm just going to continue on by painting this like the previous slice. As you've noticed, this is going to be a lot of repeated steps. The steps are exactly the same with all of the other slices, but I'm just playing with the different color combinations, and that's why it's really important to pick the colors that you like, or even create your own color combinations if you would like to. It doesn't even have to be real and it doesn't have to exist. Just have fun with it, and when you paint something repetitively, it's always good practice for your brush and water control anyway, which is why I love painting this one, because it's just so easy and it also counts as exercise, and on top of that you also get to play with different color combinations. For the skin of the lemon, I'm going to use yellow as the main color, and to make the yellow a bit richer, I also add a bit of a mixture between yellow and a touch of vermilion for the final addition, or you can also change vermilion to orange to warm the yellow further. Next is the orange slice, so never mind about what I said before about the lemon being the easiest one. This is probably the easiest one, as I'm only going to use two colors, which are orange and yellow. As the orange in this Pentel set is quite dark, I like to add the addition of yellow so I can play with the hue as well as the brightness of the color slightly. And for the flesh, I like to use both the yellow and orange and just alternate those colors to create a light, fresh and juicy orange slice. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but I also like to make sure that the white in between each of the sections are nice and thin, because I find that this makes the slice look extra juicy. For this one at the bottom, because the grapefruit is quite dark in color compared to the rest of the composition, I wanted something light below the grapefruit so it doesn't look too heavy at the bottom in terms of the weight of the composition, which is why I decided to repaint a lemon slice using the same color and techniques as the rest of the slices. But of course it's up to you, you can really create any other citrus slices that you would like to. As for the last slice, I want to create lime because the Calamansi is looking a little bit lonely with the only green on the page. And for this one, I used three colors, which are deep green, lemon yellow, and yellow ochre. For the flesh of the lime, I first create a muted light green by using a mixture of yellow ochre and deep green. Then I adjust the brightness by adding the lemon yellow to the mix. It depends on how green you would like to make the lime, so you can adjust the ratio to your personal taste. For the skin of the lime, I used the exact same mixture but adjusted the ratio so there's a bit more deep green, so this color is not as bright as the color of the flesh. To finish everything off, I've decided to add little dots in different sizes using the colors that I have left on my palette from the individual slice mixtures, or you can also add things like leaves, flowers, or even juice droplets using the spare color mixtures to fill in the space and decorate the page. Lastly, I've made very small dots to balance and bring the composition together, and that's it for this painting. This is the finished page of the citrus slices. If you're still here, thank you so much for watching till the end. Like usual, all of the tools and my social media links will be in the description box. I've also left the community contributions open for those of you who would like to add subtitles to this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye!